Hi, so today I'll be presenting chapter 9, and the topic is out of sight, out of mind. So this chapter is very important for those of you who is a leader or who want to be a leader or who want to be a CEO. So if you don't want to be either of those, you can leave. No, just joking. Okay, all right. So in the beginning, the book talk about this person, Lord Brown. So he's the head of British Petroleum. And then what happened was there's an accident. There was like uh, accident in British Petroleum, which caused 15 people to die. So at the time, uh, the the news people they interview this guy, Lord Brown. So what happened to the plant and why the accident happened and all. So his reply was at first he doesn't know what was going on and he doesn't appear to think that there was anything to know. And he seemed very unconcerned, like, okay, this for there's like 15 people died, but then he doesn't know what happened. And that was like already a few days already. It happened before the interview started. So he can't really see who is working for him because the company was so huge because British Petroleum is like a very huge company. So he can't really see what happened. So that's what happened in like a big corporate when the leader or the management is so high up, they can't really see who is working down there. And if they can't see, they don't it's not in their mind. So they're not thinking about the employee down there. Oh, by the way, feel free to interject or ask anything. Yeah. So we often see it's not only in a corporate, but it's also in leaders like politicians. So one of the example is Donald Trump here. He can't really see that the situation is really really bad right now. He could just say that what's one more death because he's so high up, he's so away from the people that he don't see what's the reality. So what's the problem here? Anyone can tell me like what is the main problem? Why can't they see? Anyone would like to say something? Why can't these people, these leaders and this politician, they don't see the problem? Mm, mm, yeah, that's actually very accurate. And any other sharing before I move on? They choose not to see. Hmm. They choose not to see? Maybe we can leave that question until the end and then we can get back to that answer. Are they really choosing not to see or they memang cannot see? Okay, so I'm moving on. The first problem is power is a problem. So, like what Pei say, when they are too powerful, they can't. It actually impose a distance between the authority, which is the powerful, and the one working for them, which is the less powerful. So, think about money actually undermines our sense of connectedness. Means that if we think so, the powerful often think about money and how to like earn more um from this business lah. So they don't really think about how if the long working hours on the employee will what happened to them, and it actually creates a distance between the powerful and the non-powerful. So like in this experiment, they actually did like a monopoly, more like a role play. So it shows that those who have more money, they prove to be less helpful for the person because they are so focused on what they want, what they need from that, and that they don't want to help or they choose not to help the poor. And then, like, so what was Brown's response to the accident? This is I took it exactly from the book. He said that, oh, we are going to take care of this with team. We are going to make it right. We are going to make certain that the devastation has been read upon and taken care of. But the problem is the victim already died. These 15 people died. So how is he gonna make it right? So in his response, there's no fear, there's no hunger to make the change. This he just like very abstractly say, "Oh, we're gonna help this, we're gonna help that, this," and saying that, "Oh, these are victims." But the thing is, these victims are already dead. So, so one thing about those powerful is their language. When they confront with a risky situation like what previously the Brown response, they are more likely to think more abstract and they're more optimistic and more certain that they are right. And like what Pei Wen have mentioned, why they are more optimistic is because of their privilege. So for example, you imagine yourself like you're in the private car and you're in the public transport, the bus. In the private car, you're really cut off from the reality. You can't really know what's outside, like what's like going through every day. Like, can you see any homeless people going around? Yeah, you can see while you're in the car, but when you're in the powerful, you're too busy in your own bubble. But whereas if you're in a public bus, you get to see a lot of things that's pleasant and unpleasant. So those leaders, they inhabit a bubble of power, which they are mentally cut off and physically cut off from the reality. Any question? Please let me know if I'm going too fast. Or sir, you wanna add on anything?
I add on at the end.
Okay. All right. So all these leaders, all these politicians, they're we can see that they're not really they can't really see a lot of things. They are so in their bubble and they're so distant from their employees. So why didn't the employees say anything? So first of it is a structural blindness. So in company it's very common lah. Like you do this, you do tax only. So I finance, I do maybe calculation of salary, and then the other person only do outsourcing money. So it's very much in their own thing, in their own way. So division of labor means dividing the roles into so many things lah. Like what I say, you do tax, I do calculation, and then you do the outsourcing money. But it doesn't keep the corporation blind, but it's the effect that keep the corporation blind. So, for example, people who manufacture cars, they are not really the one who repair the cars, or like people who create the vaccine are not the one administering the vaccine. So this is the example of the division of labor lah. So I manufacture car, it doesn't mean that I know how to repair them, lor. So one of the problem is in company, very obvious one is the outsourcing. So a lot of times company want to cut costs. So it's called outsourcing, and one of the ways is called outsourcing. So outsourcing means that the company don't need to hire more people. They just have to buy from other company, Kennedy. So that way they kind of more or less save money, lor. But there is also an issue in the outsourcing. So one of the example is this aluminium bottle maker, this company. So um, they are the one who they made the aluminium bottle and sell. But the thing is, they outsource their aluminium from another manufacturer. So they didn't really do this by their own. They actually asked other company to do the bottle. But then the public discover that in the bottle there is an ingredient, it's called BPA. So this BPA can cause a lot of issue to your health, which is diabetes, heart disease, or lower sperm, and problem with period for female. And then, but then this company, they claim that there's no harmful ingredient, but actually they didn't know. So one of the issue is they trust so much to the manufacturer that they didn't really know what is in the ingredient itself. So they just sell out and say, "Oh no, this bottle there's no BPA." So this is one of the example of blindness in outsourcing. And then the other one, we back to BP, John Brown. So this John Brown, he ordered 25% cut cost for all the refinery, regardless of the condition. So which cause have the three fatality and 15 people died. And we come to a conclusion that once you outsource the critical function, which is the critical function uh, of the company, like for example, back to the bottle, you outsource the critical function, which is the aluminum bottle, to the another company. So you are blind to how the work get done. More simple example is when you're in school, you didn't finish your homework, and then you ask your friend to if you can copy their answer or not. So it's kind of like outsourcing their homework. So you copy their homework, their answer, but do you really know how to do the maths, how to do the chemistry? So that is like one of the simple example of being blindness in outsourcing lah. Then the question is, but still, someone could have noticed something, right? Even if like the management is really really bad, like they they can't see, they're super blind, and they're outsourcing is super blind. But someone in the employees should have noticed something, right? So why didn't they say anything? Any thoughts? No. Feel it. Mm, true, true. It could be that reason also, like the leader don't want to accept your feedback. How about the rest? It could be like your teacher also. Like if you notice your teacher being blind to something, and then yeah, why would anyone not say anything? Are you guys typing? Okay. No response. No response. I move forward liao lah. Don't waste time. So whether the first thing is group think. So if in the company, like what Pei say also lah, if you keep going to giving the feedback and feedback, and then there's no response, so everyone will tend to think, oh, there's no hope anymore. We're gonna think that, oh, okay, the management will surely reject us already. All of us give up the hope lah. And then group thing is like if everyone's drinking the same Pepsi, you can pretty sure that no one will speak up when something is wrong. So even if this guy, this leader say, oh, I have got this plan is to cut cost 50%. So everyone would just say, oh yeah, can. But actually in their mind is they don't want one. So why they don't want to say out is they're too eager for inclusion and too afraid to be excluded. And this is also why office politics also happen, that they don't want uh, to be excluded from the group. So they rather be wrong than alone. Another reason is fear of retribution, which means fear of being fired. So I remember Pei Wen say that his previous boss, that if anyone say anything, that the boss will threaten to fire them. So a lot of leaders they have, um, for those kind of leaders, if you say anything back, they will say something unpleasant back, which is, oh, I'll fire you if you don't do this and if you don't do that. Because these people they are already having a set mindset already. They are right, that they are doing the right thing. So they have like a tunnel vision to not want to believe the truth. So like this picture lah, they don't want to see anything else but their the thing that they think that is right lor. All this thing is the truth. And then yeah, cognitive dissonance, resolve in favors of faith. So it means that they already have like a really set mindset that they want to reject everything. So if anyone there to say something back to them, they will just threaten, or like what people say, ignore lor. So I'm actually coming to the end already. It's very fast. So the conclusion is, if you can't see things, if they can't see things, these things, they will just keep happening. So what we're coming back to QQ answer, which is, are they really choosing not to see, or they memang cannot see? Yeah. And then YMAC community say upper management is more focused on how to increase dividend for the shareholder and cut operation costs from lower rank employee by increasing more roles for employees in the company, cut bonuses. Eventually, employee lose sense of belonging to the company. Yeah. So like what Pei Wen have say in the chat, the upper management, they are more focused on the money. So, but then if they are more focused on money, they cut costs and then they increase the uh, maybe hours of the employee. It actually increases the distance between the power and the non-power already. And then the employee lose sense of belonging to the company. Yeah, any question? Any thoughts? Or sir?
Can we go back to the question you just asked about QQ's comment? Uh, they can't see or they choose not to see.
Yeah. So are they choosing not to see or they can't see? What do you guys think? Hello, hello. Anyone there?
Hello, hello. Okay, there's a difference between choosing not to see and can't see. Can't see is they can't see. That means they didn't see it. Choosing not to see is they saw it, then they ignore it, and then they choose not to see it. That means that there's a difference, huh? Can't see is can't see. That means they didn't see it. They didn't gain the picture in their mind. They didn't see it. Choose not to see is not. They saw it, then they cover it up. Then so that okay. So there's a big difference. There's a difference. I wouldn't say there's a big difference. There's a difference. So which is it for this chapter? Out of sight, out of mind. Cannot see or choose not to see. Not able to see means you didn't see. Okay? Choose not to see means you can see one. Okay? But then you go and cover it so that you don't see.
They
That's the
choose
difference.
to cannot see.
No, 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 no. What they choose to cannot see? They choose to cannot see means they choose not to see. Ian big brain. No, that's not a big brain. That's a compromising brain. That's the brain trying to put two together that cannot fit together. Choose to put their attention on what they want to see instead of what they don't want to see. Then they choose not to see. Yihuan, what you're saying is choose not to see, not cannot see. Choose not to see is can see, but they choose not to see. Cannot see means cannot see. They didn't choose. They cannot see. So which is it? You understand what I'm saying? Cannot see is not a choice. Choose not to see is a choice. That's the difference. Any other input? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, Pavan, for your comment, let me ask you a question. Could you see could you see your boss's responsibility to the shareholders? Could you see the boss's responsibility to shareholders? So it's not you choose not to see, right? It's not that you choose not to see your boss's responsibility to your shareholders because you were not a boss before. So you do not understand yet the kind of responsibility that a boss has to shareholders. So you did not choose not to see, but you do not have the experience that allow you the capability to see. Does that help to understand? So, possible. Why? That's why. Can you explain why? There are possibility that cannot see, but there are possibility also choose not to see. Both exist, and we need to understand that both exist. That's why I want to throw this question. And there are times that you have to try to recognize which is it so that you don't misunderstand the person. Can you imagine if, let's say, right, let's say Yvonne. Let's say if I'm angry with Yvonne for something, and then the way I interpret in order for me to be angry with Yvonne, in other words, how I interpret Yvonne's action. If I interpret Yvonne as choosing not to see, then my anger with Yvonne is justified. But if I'm angry with Yvonne, but actually Yvonne cannot see, realize my anger with Yvonne is not justified. What's the point of me being angry with somebody who cannot see? Whereas, if I'm angry with a person who chooses not to see, a person who chooses not to see is choosing the easy way to avoid a responsibility. Right? But a person who cannot see is not avoiding. So it is not appropriate in this case for me to be angry with a person who cannot. That's why it's quite important for us to recognize these two possibilities and to know what, right? Because if cannot see, let's say if Yvonne cannot see, then it is my responsibility. Now, I should try to help Yvonne see. But if Yvonne choose not to see, I cannot help Yvonne see. Again, my response to what is happening with Yvonne is different. If Yvonne choose not to see, it means that I cannot help her see one. Because she has already chosen not to see. She can only make herself see because it's her choice. But if Yvonne cannot see, not because she don't want to see, cannot see, then I have a responsibility to try to help Yvonne see. So in a situation of blindness, if a person cannot see, it is better because why? Then other people or at least we can take accountability for ourselves to go and help the person who cannot see. Whereas in blindness, if the person chooses not to see, then my reaction, my response will be different. Very different. I won't waste the time to go and talk to the person because the person has already chosen not to see. Comment, input, feedback. Understand or don't understand? Before I go further. You see, choosing not to see is driven by identity crisis. In other words, your sense of identity, your sense of security is being threatened. And when it is being threatened, I don't want. I want to retain my sense of identity and security. So I block it off. I block off the view that can shake my identity or my sense of security. So I choose not to see because I want to remain in that sense of security and identity, which now has become false. It creates a false sense of security and identity. Whereas cannot see merely indicate a limitation of a human being, of a finite human being. We have to understand that our brain is finite. We are not infinite brain. We are not God. We do not have infinite capability of seeing and remembering. We do not. Our brain has limited capacity. Which is why when an organization becomes too big geographically and structurally, it may exceed the limitation of our mental capability. When it has exceeded the limitation of our mental capability, then we cannot see. Not because we don't want to see. We cannot. Our mind cannot cope with too many. Our mind is a finite mind. That means can only cope with finite perception and finite information. Take for instance, now the finite, our mental capacity grows. So when you are a baby, you can imagine your ability, your mathematical mental skill, the part of your mental skill that involves with numbers. Automatically, you have a limit. You have a limit of your capability to count. Okay? And so there's no point giving you a mathematical question beyond that capability. But of course, that capability can be improved and increased, yes. But improving and increasing also means that at any moment it's still finite, except that it's growing finite. That limitation is still growing, but it is still limited. So within our limited capability, and we have to acknowledge our limitation. That's why sometimes we overestimate our capability. Which is why I always say, if you don't have such a mind, don't wear such a hat. 冇咁大嘅頭，冇戴咁大頂帽。Don't wear a hat that you are not capable of exercising. In other words, don't take on a role and responsibility beyond your mental capability to do. Because if you do, what will happen is this. You're going to have blindness because there are some things you cannot cope, you couldn't see. You couldn't see, not you choose not to see. You couldn't see because of your limited capability. And so what happens is that when you cannot see, then you fail. You fail to execute your role and responsibility correctly. Not because you choose not to see, but you have taken on a role and too much for you, and yet you cannot see. So out of sight, out of mind could be caused by two things. Choosing not to see, right, due to an attack on your identity or security. Or cannot see due to the role and responsibility, whatever you have taken on is beyond your capability. Any question? Any comment? Any input? Because this is important so that it helps us to know, to make the right decision in life, especially when it involves taking up responsibility and also involved with training our capability. Because the limitation is always changing. Because we are always growing, but we still have a limitation despite the fact that we are growing. Some of the limitation you always have to understand basically is this. Because we are finite human being. Now, let me give you a very simple physical illustration. If I take a binoculars and put it over my eyes, I can see very far, but I cannot see very near. Realize that this is a factual limitation. When I put a binoculars over my eyes, I can see far, but I cannot see near. Cannot. Okay? You cannot. It's not that when I put a binoculars over my eyes and want to see far, I don't have a choice to choose about seeing near. It just doesn't work. Can you picture that? But once I remove the binoculars from my eye, I can see near, but I cannot see far. Okay? These are simple fact. So which is my limitation. You see, I'm so familiar with seeing far. Which means this, the more time I spend seeing far, the less time I spend seeing near. Because when I'm seeing far, I don't see near. It's just it. When I switch to seeing near, I lose sight of seeing far. My mind does that. Don't your mind does that? When I'm looking at the future, then I forget the present. It's like, forget the present, out of sight, out of mind. When I look to the present, then I forget the future. So I had to switch to remember both. Look at the present, look at the future. Look at the present, look at the future. And that's what we need to do. Because of the finite limitation. We can see one, we cannot see both. Because we are finite human beings. And so when a person sits at a CEO position, it's easier for them to see the big picture, but not easy for them to see the small individuals. Because the CEO who see in the CEO seat above, his main responsibility is to keep the whole thing, the big picture, functioning, not the individual worker. But then a good CEO will switch. In other words, when he's in his office, he will put on the binocular vision to see the big picture, to see the future of the organization. But then the CEO will take time to come out of the office and walk into your employee's life to see the everyday small picture, which is the individual. And so you'll notice the good leader will switch between the two. And that's what I want to help us to understand. Because of the limitation that we have, that when we see one, we tend to overlook the other. When we see the far, we overlook the near. When we see the near, we overlook the far. These are natural limitations. And so we have to make sure in our daily living, we spend enough time to see the near and the far. It's the same thing as what I'm trying to do with YMAT, with all the YMAT members. When we are busy doing today's work, I am not shaping my mind for a better tomorrow. But when I'm busy shaping my mind for a better tomorrow, I am overlooking, I'm taking time out, and I'm putting less time on today's problem. And it's easy to get caught up, put all the time in today's problem, because today's problem scream out louder. Because today's problem keep asking you, come, solve it. And so we couldn't see the need to shape our mind so that we can live tomorrow's life better. And a good leader, a good personal leadership has to balance between both. Making sure I have time to handle today's problem and yet also have time to build tomorrow's life. Because if I don't, then I cannot see. Now, is that choose not to see? I cannot deny it could be. Okay, to avoid the struggle between the two. But when you are in it, you cannot. Question. Question. No question. No question. I hand the time back to Yvonne.
My part here also finished already. Just like the question.
If no question, then finish early tonight, lah.
I got question.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
So, if for example, if I'm a CEO in a very big company, then I, like what you say, I naturally cannot how to say, see all of them or intentionally want to check out with all of them. And then also, I also have my own manager to check all of them. So what if, how would I say, how as a CEO I want to be conscious of what's going on?
I think my first comment is very simple. Ask yourself if that big a hat do you want to wear? Okay, that's the first question. Do I want and am I capable to wear such a big hat? I think that's the first question. That's why today's world, everybody felt that, okay, wow, it's a great thing to be promoted. Right? Everybody want promotion. Now that you understand the limitation each one has and the responsibility that comes with the role, the promotion, we need to question that, you know. Does it really, is it always good to be promoted? Actually, no. No. In fact, a person who recognizes that they recognize their own limitation should not be promoted beyond the limitation that the person has, because it's no longer good. Once you are promoted to a position that is beyond your capability, it's no longer good. So that promotion is not good. So my first question for you basically is this. Is that position as a CEO a right position for you? Do you have the capability to meet the role, to fulfill the role and responsibility as the CEO? Do you have the ability to see and to manage your time to see far and near? Does that answer your question, Yvonne?
Mm-hmm. Digesting.
Because very important is this. The bigger the company, as a CEO, the bigger you must be able to see. And yet, without neglecting the near. You see, for an employee, we find it so easy to see individuals. That's why most employee, it's easy for us to criticize the CEO as not understanding, right? Not spending enough time, always thinking about money, not thinking about us. Very simple. Why? Because an employee has nothing else to think about except themselves. Why? The employee doesn't really have to spend that much time seeing the big picture. Because the big picture involves everybody together. Right? So, which is why it is easy for us very often to point a finger at CEO. But again, I'm not saying that it's not justified to point the finger at the CEO. In today's world, unfortunately, there are a lot of CEOs who are not capable. Let's say if you see a war movie, okay, and you see people at war in a war movie, who holds the binoculars? Does the private hold a binoculars? No, it's the captain, right? It's a general, right? Yeah. So the general have to figure out how to win the war. What does the private have to do? Private don't understand the war. Private merely have to follow the command and go and execute whatever the instructions given. Right? And take care of himself and take care of the soldiers beside him or her. The general, no. The general have to think about the war. So, does the general, in this case, develop his capability, even though it's still limited, develop his capability to plan the war, yet without forgetting the individual privates? So for a CEO, my advice for you is this: train your capability now. If you are looking at a position of CEO, if you are looking at the potential of being a CEO, then train yourself as such to see a bigger and bigger and picture, yet without forgetting the individuals in the company. So you're expanding your use of the binoculars without forgetting the individuals beside you who are working for the company. Does that answer your question, Yvonne?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you have to always recognize the limitation and not to end up choosing not to see. Because a CEO who chooses not to see is not a good CEO. But a CEO that cannot see is also not a good CEO, by the way. A CEO who cannot see should not be a CEO. So it's also a CEO who chooses not to see. Okay?
Okay.
I hope it helps you to understand, Yvonne. Any other question from other people? Yep. Okay. I think there's a difference between what you can do and promotion. I want to separate the two. Promotion doesn't prove that you can do what you can do. Promotion should not be a proof to you that you are capable. Do you understand what I'm saying, Jin Lee? Okay? Promotion should never be a proof, used as a proof of your improvement. Should never be. Okay? Because promotion got to do with only certain improvement, not all improvement. Certain improvement justify promotion, but there are a lot of improvement that don't. Okay? So you have to be extremely careful. But of course, in the world today, right, we tend to view promotion as a proof that I'm capable. No, sorry. That's not right. That's not right. Okay? If you see a football team, for instance, I am improved player. Does that mean I have to be a captain? No. I'm not the best player in the team. Does that mean I cannot be a captain? No. All that says is that I am the best person as a captain. As a captain. In other words, the skill required as a captain, I am best. But I'm not necessarily the best player in the team. Does that make sense? Correct. Correct. If I'm a great goalkeeper and I'm keep improving, now I'm protecting the goal better and better. I'm letting less and less goal enter. I'm improving. but I don't know how to motivate my team member. I don't know how to bring the team together in the football field. So that mean that I'm not capable? No, I am. So my identity as a goalkeeper, I need to be happy with. I'm better goalkeeper. So not being able to be promoted as a captain doesn't prove a thing about my value and my improvement or my improved value. No, it doesn't indicate anything about my improved value, even though I'm not promoted as a captain. Same thing with salary, yeah. Okay, salary is the company's or your boss's express value of you in monetary terms, right? But in context of what the company measure of what they want you to do, right? So is that indication of your full personal value? No, no. But if you are not able to give what the company deem as valuable in context of their company work and company business, yes, they may pay you less. But paying you less doesn't mean that your value is less. Your personal value is less. It's not. Let me read Yi Huang's comment. Just by recon la, the bigger the head, the bigger the responsibility. And it leads people to think far and do more. Not do more. We all always have limited to what we can do, but achieve more. Basically, when we improve our capability, right, our 1 hour work may, okay, take for instance, now I'm making kombucha or I'm making roasted cinnamon. When I first started, 1 hour, I managed to do only 1 kilogram of roast nut. But if I am improving in my ability to develop, to make roast nuts, now after 2 weeks, now I can make 1.2 kilogram in 1 hour. Yeah, this is what it means. So I have improved. So the CEO must be able to achieve more within the 8-hour a day work. They can achieve more. They can do some work that other people cannot do. Okay, it's not just do more, because you will hit a cap, because we all are limited. Eventually, we can't do more, but we are doing something that other people cannot do. The head requires us to do some things that other people do not do. The head comes along with it certain things that other people don't do, but you have to do. But yet we need to manage balance between far and near. Yes. Always the higher you go, the more time you have to spend on far. Your boundary, the circle of responsibility starts widening as you rise in organizational hierarchy. Okay? Too far will disconnect from current situation, yes, and stress out. Too near, we will stagnate and not move forward. Excellent. Well said. Zhu Yi Huang. Correct. Okay. The key here is recognizing, cannot see, and choose not to see. Okay? Recognizing that we have a limitation. Stacking up improvement instead of doing more. Yes. Basically, when you play frisbee, it's almost the same thing. Play frisbee. First day we can only throw 20 meter. But if we are improved, we can throw 50 meter. But not only 50 meter and throw more accurate for 50 meter, for instance. That's called improvement, increasing our capability. But it's still limited. It's still 50 meter.
In the end, we all learn that if it's too high up above, we can still see, but it's not towards our limit. But again, if we can't see, are we really not seeing or not choosing to see it?